Hello. So he didn't get a workout?
No.
This is Dustin.
Hello.
What the hell is this?
That is Mom. That is what allowed us to get through this film.
That's a computer on a drive.
Computer filled with rated drives.
What is that called?
Tangent wave panel?
I don't know a whole lot about color. I don't understand any of this stuff yet. Those things, that's all a big mystery. What is it if you're a filmmaker and you want to make your film look better and you have DaVinci Resolve, which is for free?
You start with the wider shot of the scene instead of starting with a close-up, because it gives you kind of an idea of what the tonality of the overall environment is, and then helps you match from scene to scene. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take this shot, which is kind of a wider shot of the scene. I come in, and the only thing I worry about is no color, nothing about that. I just look at my lift, gamma, and gain. That's black, mid, bright. Balancing the image, trying to get your contrast, your brightness, your blacks, all of those things. You just try to get them balanced in the way that looks nice. So my black levels are all way too high. So first thing I would do is I'd bring those down a bit. And you can see on the screen here, I'm using my lift to come down a bit. And then I'm gonna bring my gain up and just kind of come up to something that feels about right for the scene. I'm gonna adjust my gamma, get those blacks down a little punchier. And I might even come in here and mess around with contrast that's built in, depending on how I want the scene to feel. But basically, I just first kind of go for an evening out of the scene and kind of get nice levels of contrast. Once that's done, then I go in and I start saying, well, I need to bring in some saturation because this was shot flat in a log kind of style. So I might up my saturation. Oh, now we're getting a little orange. Well, there's lots of ways you can mess around with taking orange out and all of that. But maybe that's how I want that scene to be for now. So I kind of basically come up with this as my grade, just something kind of, you know, kind of basic. You know, and you want to make sure you play the scene through because he might have come up those stairs and there could have been a really bright area. This is the shot before. And so I'm going to try to match this shot to this one. You know, make it contrasty, brighten it up a little, make it feel a little more commercial. We got a little hot spots on there. Then we throw in some saturation and we kind of clean it up a bit. So here's what we got now. And then this is what happens when we turn off the grade.
Okay.
So you can see the difference. Turn off this is how it was shot, and this is kind of the beautification of it.
Amazing.
Come on, let's take the tour.
I feel really good about the movie.
Do you want to even look at this?
Yeah. Because of anything. In fact, I feel great about the movie. We've really had the right amount of time. For me, just to be able to sit with kind of the rough cut. And then when we came in and started working together, we had time to sit and reflect on that and realized, oh, there was an opportunity to make it even better.
You can see how beautiful and things you can do with this footage. And we went down this road. When I color something, my first instinct is to make it look really good. And then we discovered at the end of the grade from the whole film that it didn't feel right. It didn't feel real.
There is a certain level of rawness to the movie that once you start to take the color and sound into, you take it through the traditional process of how things are kind of cleaned up and polished, you start to lose some of that rawness, and that's a problem.
So we decided to take a completely different approach. What we decided to do to make this feel very real was, first, I unplugged the wave panel and put it away.
It started to feel like two different films, like one different element trying to come into the way the movie is and turn it into something that it's not.
We wanted to give it a real documentary feel. So I'm going to reset this back to nothing here. Here's how it was shot. Now, let's just transfer it over directly into Rec. 709 color space, which is basically saying to DaVinci, why don't you automatically take the image how it was shot and convert it over as though we were going right off to deliver to broadcast. Before, it was like this. This was in Blackmagic Design color space, and which is the color space it was shot at. Now, what I'm going to say to DaVinci is, no, give me Rec. 709. And this is essentially like, I'm not doing a single grade here. This is how it was shot. This is how it would look if we didn't touch it. What we noticed that gave us was a sense of reality. It gave us a sense of documentary. It gave us a sense of not trying to touch up the imagery, which was really important to this film.
I love this movie so much, and I really wanted to do right by myself in this film in the best way possible. So taking this time to get it where I feel really, really good about it is great.
The only things that we allowed ourselves to do was to adjust in-camera settings as though we had access to the camera in the moment shooting the scene. Things as simple as ISO adjustments. If a scene was too bright or too dark, we would take down the ISO. Like if I take down the ISO here, it gets even darker. And if I go over here and I set it to Rec. 709, because I remember we shot this in the moment, same lighting, it ought to match. Which, because we shot this very documentary style, we didn't tend to change a lot of lighting setups. And so we had fairly close matching scenes already.
Each time I watch the movie through in its entirety, I continue to gain some new level of like insight into kind of the magic behind it.
Come on, let's take the tour.
And that happens while we were editing, it happens when I sit and watch the movie all the way through, or it happens when I'm just reviewing a scene over and over and over again, trying to grade it.
The courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not ours, be done.
What's up, man? What's up, Heck? How you doing, man?
I'm just gonna create a new node, which I'm gonna add on top of the previous grade to kind of tweak things. Maybe if I want to make this scene feel really oppressive and dark, I might simply do a vignette. And I'll just draw a vignette real quick. These are actually a little secret weapon that can be really great. And then we'll just invert that. You want to be careful about this because then it's obvious, but you can also adjust the softening of the edges. But if you notice what that does is, I'm going to soften just a little, is it kind of narrows the world a little bit, kind of makes it feel a little more closed off. And so if you look at it with the vignette and without, it's very subtle. You can go much further. And then I would just copy that same vignette effect to the next one. And then I might also say, you know what, overall, the scene needs to be a little darker. So I'll create another node and say, we're still not quite done. This is feeling like we need to be a little moodier. So I might bring down my gain a bit and just kind of, and you got to be careful because now if I bring it all the way down, now we're starting to feel really kind of a lack of detail in his face. So I might just kind of do a little of that. And then let's go back and then let's just play those and see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not bad. So it's not always about making the pretty image.
On to the big kahuna. On to the big kahuna.
But what can always help is starting out with lift, gamma, and gain. It's been really cool though because we've gotten to come up with all these processes. And we were probably the first feature to shoot on the Ursa Mini 4.6K camera, which was really cool, but also daunting because we had to learn a whole new process. And then you took the film and edited it, and then I got it back about a month ago and started grading, and we had a very tight schedule, so I did have a 36-hour workday where I worked 36 hours straight at this desk, which was my new record. And now we're kind of in the final throes of finishing the last bits.
And when are you delivering?
Tonight. The idea is that at 6 p.m. I export this out, and 9 p.m. I'm uploading and we submit.
All right, well then we don't want to take any more of your time. Good luck finishing it off.
Thank you.